Dr. Jazz.
Thanks for finding the time. We finally did it. So I was
Yeah,
persistent.
sorry for the back and forth.
Oh, no worries. But I want to start this talk with actually your tour. I mean, and the band with Ben and Billy, and I've listened to Bridges a lot, and it's such a beautiful record you guys did. And what's your story with Billy and Ben? I mean, how did you hook up? I mean, I watched that video that you guys did. That's quite a funny one, actually. But still, what's your history with these two guys
I mean, I met Billy when I was 18 years old. My first trip
already?
to
Oh, wow.
Europe in whatever it was, 1987,
Wow.
time ago. And sorry, one second.
Oh, no.
Need the phone here. Um, uh, I met him when I was 18. My first trip to Europe. I was there with a band from New York, and I was introduced to him, and he was very welcoming, open. In fact, he immediately invited me to play some music,
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
you know, like in this club in Madrid where they had already just finished a night with the band Quest.
Oh, sure.
Like, he's like, Ron, get your bass. We're going to play with this guy. Like, just completely blind, no idea who I was,
Oh, that's beautiful.
So that was the beginning. And so it's pretty special, and then over the years in New York, playing together in various situations. Not a lot, but then I hired him to play on one of my Blue Note records back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And again, we had been playing little gigs here and there. And yeah, so, and then just, over the years in different contexts. And then during the pandemic, Paul from Smoke had us go in and just do a live stream to an empty club, and that was the first trio record we did with Ben.
Yeah, yeah, that's a beautiful one. Yeah.
And then we went into the studio to do this one a couple years ago.
Yeah. It's such a nice
And then
chemistry.
and
Beautiful.
then with Ben, being a peer, a contemporary, um, just playing with different people. When we were coming up in Brooklyn, so we would do sessions and gigs with Kurt and Seamus,
Oh, yeah.
and uh, different bands, and then I would occasionally hire him, or again we would wind up doing gigs together. Just the New
Mm.
York crowd
Yeah, yeah.
during the 90s and 2000s, and all that.
Yeah.
So, and always loved his playing as well, and just so present and intuitive and great sound and everything. His knowledge of the music and love of it, and
Oh, yeah.
so
Yeah, it's
yeah.
beautiful. I love this trio because it's so much different than your trio with Doug and Bill. I mean, obviously Bill and Billy are amazing drummers both, but I think quite different the time and everything. And it's so
Oh
nice to
yeah,
hear in both contexts. It's beautiful.
thanks. Yeah, it's different feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah, different beasts. I love that. Yeah. I always wanted to ask you about your writing, man. I mean, especially in this one, I've listened to Butterfly and Song for
Mm.
Peace for so many times. These are such nice melodies and ballads, and I made like lead sheets.
Oh,
Hope
wow.
probably wrong, but
Well, I can send you what I was thinking.
yeah. What's your process when writing? I mean, how did you come up with these two tunes specifically, or in general?
Well,
How do you write?
Butterfly actually has lyrics, and I haven't released it as the
Oh, really?
song, with me singing it, but I do have I've been working on some tracks and demos, and
Oh,
maybe
wow.
they're not, maybe they're more than demos, I don't know, but a little bit. Yeah, and so that song in particular, maybe because it has lyrics, and sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I love melodies. I love song. Of course, standards. The love of that and singers, and so I'm very much coming from a melody thing. If I had to be, what do they say? On a desert island. Like I'd be. Would you leave me with chord changes or melodies? I would choose melodies.
Mm,
You know what I mean? But
sure.
often in this musical sphere, we're so busy with the intellectual exercises of harmony and playing on chord changes and just like blowing and these kinds of ideas. I see behind you the maestro Sonny Rollins, who I often tell the story of working with him.
Yeah, you got to play with him, right?
Yeah, when he first hired me, sending me a cassette tape of the songs that we were going to play, and instead of it being his band and his versions, he sent me versions of all singers. It was
Oh,
like he's like, you need to know how these really go. So I'm not the definitive version, and one could argue even the jazz singers, though they were a lot closer than us instrumentalists because they were actually singing the words. They had to make it fit with the melody. Even if they were changing it a bit, there was a loyalty,
sure.
you know, uh, cleaving to the song, that and so anyway, so maybe I mean I've talked about even just lyrics. I mean a classical pianist I know, when he was coming up in Italy, his teacher made him put lyrics to Mozart
Mm,
so that he would internalize them as tunes that you might
interesting.
whistle down the street or something, or you might sing, like this case. So it's like deepening the appreciation for the contours of a melody. And
Yeah,
so yeah, so, and of course, harmonically, I don't, I mean, it all goes together, with the chord changes and counterpoint and trying to find, good bass movement, voice leading, both in the bass and in the interior of the harmony, paying
yeah,
attention to that. So it's all sort of all of the elements, but primarily the melody stuff. Um, so yeah, I appreciate that. And Song for Peace, I guess the same way,
yeah,
except there's no lyrics necessarily for that. Um,
yeah. Just like you're right. It's like I think the idea of lyrics. I get myself caught also in this. Like you write a complex 7/4 whatever, and I think too much, intellectualize. What will sound cool, but you should probably try singing it always because
it's
that's what
like, yeah, it's
you
like a
know.
really good quality control
Yeah, yeah,
device. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you test its fortitude.
yeah. Oh, it makes sense. Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
and also the idea of story, I guess. Um, the idea of telling a story, and I think, I mean, maybe there's also some just compositional techniques, or the idea of theme and variation using a small cell of some idea. You know, this is on. Like something.
Yeah,
So that's that, right? That's sort of telling that first sentence.
yeah,
Whatever the chord is. Yeah, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm basically using the same thing over and over again. Then, you know,
Yeah.
it's a very short tune, my specialty. I run out of gas quick. So, you know, so that's all it is, you know, and of course you steal from the great composers that just did even shorter themes, you know,
Sure.
but just, you know, how do you, yeah, but how do you do it? How do you repeat without it being redundant? You know, how do you, where you're, it's not, where you're still, you're moving this thing forward. You know, you grab a little bit of the last phrase and then you move that. And it's the same way, I guess, you know, I'm not like consciously, if you make it too conscious, oh, I'm going to theme and variate right now, you know, over
Yep.
and over, develop a solo, and it gets too much, like you said, in your head, but intuitively plugging into your musical intuition and the idea of telling the story, and just, you know, wanting to communicate something, um, then uh, then you just sort of naturally go towards that.
Mm.
Hopefully, you know, if
Yeah.
you're having a good night or a good day.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that with you, the ballads. Also in the previous one, that
Oh
Elegy.
yeah,
That's so nice, man. Just the ballads you've written recently are, man,
thank you
killing,
very much.
killing
Thank you.
stuff. Yeah, I love that. Uh, I wanted to ask you, Kevin. You mentioned you were 17 or 18 when you first time went to Europe, and I checked my discography. I mean, I still love CDs, you know, and the earliest ones I found was like with Bob Belden and you know, I think you mentioned Ron McClure and who were the first guys that you started to play with in New York and like making
Well,
those
play with.
connections?
I mean, I think Ron was among the first to give me a record date.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
for Steeplechase, that one, or
yeah,
yeah,
Steeplechase with Bill Stewart
yeah,
and Eddie, I think actually, and I
yeah,
kind of stole that idea for one of my records with Joe Chambers on
yeah, yeah. I
drums.
love that. That's a nice record.
Right. But first people I started working with, one of them was who just passed, Benny Golson.
Mm. Oh yeah,
Um,
yep,
when I was, yeah, I mean, but I mean, you know, my obviously my peers, my contemporaries, um, some of them, you know, who I came up with in Connecticut, like Sean Smith, bassist,
mm,
and
yeah,
um, some kind of local guys in Connecticut. But I was close enough to New York, and then I started going to the city when I was, you know, in my teens, and I studied with a couple of teachers there, both jazz and classical stuff and technique things, and
yeah,
so having the benefit of being so close to New York, um, you know, meeting great musicians, getting to hear them in the real context of
yeah.
live, you know, so like that, and I was, you know, friends with Bill Charlap. We were running around, being crazy and having fun, and you know, he got me my first gig in well, one of them in New York. He was working at Knickerbocker,
Oh yeah,
playing solo, and you know, and then so, and he recommended me for that, and so I was just, yeah, meeting different people. I'm trying to remember, you know, some of the earliest gigs, you know, with maybe elders, but certainly by the time I got to, you know, I went to Manhattan School of Music briefly. In
mm,
that year, I went to Europe because I left school to go to Europe, and um, I was starting to meet people. But I mean, I was in bands of, I mean, I was hired by the Harper Brothers,
yeah,
Philip and Winard to be in their band. I did a record with them when they were on Verve, you know, and again, some of my peers, obviously, you know, Seamus and
Yeah,
Kurt,
Seamus and Chris and Potter and all these guys. Yeah,
Chris and Mark Turner and playing, of course, with Bill Stewart, and we were all, you know, there in Brooklyn, and Josh Redman, and so
sure.
so all my generation peers, but then the older guys, um, getting kind of recommendations, and you know, somebody, I think Dave Kokowski recommended me to Roy Haynes.
Oh yeah.
You know, so I did some gigs with Roy,
How was that
and
like?
incredible, you know, yeah, amazing, and so getting a chance to work with Roy and Golson, um, and then I did my first record in whatever it was, 91, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah.
for this Japanese label, and I was able to hire Joe Henderson. It's just crazy. So, you know, Joe Henderson comes to New York, and he does my record, and then he calls.
How was that like for you? You were like 21 and Joe Henderson is a sideman on that album. I mean,
Well, you were, you know, like it was a crazy time. I mean, you know, I was lucky. It was before he had his late,
yeah, like the
part
Blue
of,
Note thing. Yeah, yeah, that So
you
Near So
know,
Far period. Yeah, and
with his discovery from the world that this guy was a good saxophone player
true.
in the 90s or whatever, you know, or not even 2000. It probably took
Mm,
that, you know, but no, it was incredibly exciting. I mean, he was a hero, just unbelievable. I was listening, you know, at that time I was living with Bill Stewart.
mm.
We were roommates in Brooklyn, and Bill, you know, we were checking out Andrew Hill records. He was hipping me to Black Fire, you
Oh
know,
yeah, I love that stuff. Yeah,
and me to Roy Haynes, and not that thing with, yeah, Andrew and Joe. And so I was kind of, my head was a little bit in that. Of course, I was listening to all the other stuff, that, you know, obviously Blue Note records, but you know, his stuff with, you know, with Herbie,
yeah,
Joe's records, you know, Power to the People,
yeah.
you know,
Classics.
Isotope,
Yeah,
all these
yeah.
great recordings. And so, you know, I wrote some music. So, but yeah, that was amazing. And then, so then just getting a chance to work with him, I remember coming home one, one afternoon to the apartment in Brooklyn. Bill was like, Joe called. And I'm like, Joe, who? You know, and then he says, Joe Henderson. I said, oh shit. You know, let me check the message. And sure enough, there was the, you know, the tape machine. All right, it's Joe Henderson. I don't know if you're in town or out of town. He had a very cool way of talking.
No,
And so, you know, the first gig I did with him was incredibly exciting, nerve wracking.
crazy.
San Diego back in the day. So, so I pinch myself as I talk about this thing.
Yeah, that's
You know,
insane.
I'm just like this skinny white Jewish kid from Connecticut. Doesn't make much sense at all. And I'm just, you know, these are dreams come true, you know, to be able to share the stage and
Yeah,
any kind of ideas, as puny as they may have been, at the time, to make whatever an offering, you know, to this sacred tradition. You know, it's a total privilege.
yeah.
And so I've been very, very fortunate to have those kinds of experiences and interactions, you know, with these musicians. And but yeah, so it was like the New York sort of scene, and getting, you know, starting to do a little bit of touring, and getting asked to play, and then playing a little bit, having a chance to play with Al Foster a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. You also go way back. Yeah,
Yeah, and then him recommending me to Sonny, or to Sonny's nephew, And so like
How did that call to Sonny happen, actually? Do you remember? Or
the call.
I mean, did he call you like Sonny or at the first gig or?
No, I was not at first. No, I mean, there was like he was holding auditions
Oh
actually,
wow. Okay.
in New York at Carol Music, and uh, he, yeah. So there were, a few of us, and I knew that Billy Drummond was playing with Sonny at the time, so I called Billy, who I knew, and
Yeah.
asked him, what's the story, and he's like, it's Sonny Rollins. That's so I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna show up, and the way I to sort of think about it or tell the story is just, I'm like, okay, if this is the only chance I have to play with Sonny Rollins, I'm just gonna try to have fun and like do what I, feels like the right thing to do for,
Mm,
the situation, and but also not, in the having fun part, like not try to be correct, but to be spirited
mm,
and try to yeah, whatever, like get in there, and I mean I'm playing with his records. I'm as I recall, I mean, I don't have specific memories, but I played with records a lot, and
sure.
I wouldn't have been surprised if I was trying to comp with him at the Village Vanguard on his trio records, because there wasn't a piano player. Not that he needed one, you know. Uh, he sure didn't, Similar with Joe,
Yeah.
you know. These guys were so complete, harmonic and melodic, of course, geniuses that, my role, although they probably did want to hear some chords, obviously, but they really didn't need them to spell anything out. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So and then when he called me to say I got the gig, I was like, just like, yeah, it seems like, everybody liked it, so we're gonna go to wherever. I forget I don't know where the first gig, or maybe Europe. Uh, we played in various places
Yeah.
over the course of a year
Mm,
and a half, and then Schofield asked me to join his band, this quiet band with
yeah.
Bill and Seamus and Larry, and that felt musically at that time, after doing, playing with Sonny, that felt like that was a connection that I wanted to make.
Mm.
And Sonny, I just was great. He was gracious. To, I just said, hey, I how do you say that?
So they say
Just
no to Sonny, like, yeah, man.
to a giant. I mean, he was kind, and he was like,
Mm.
yeah, you got to move on. You got to do whatever you need to do. So
I love that Schofield band, by the way. One guy sent me a while ago some bootlegs from Melbourne, Sydney. You guys did on that tour.
yeah,
That's a killing. That was a killing group. I mean,
wow, yeah,
yeah, like really fantastic playing. I mean,
thanks, yeah,
such a nice vibe, that
yeah.
band. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I think you're one of those guys who still caught the last boat of playing with the guys who started it all, right? Right, with Roy Haynes and Sonny and Benny Golson, actually, and uh,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got lucky. Yeah, beautiful.
yeah. Really fortunate timing and time and place. I think,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, was the band leading thing always natural for you? Because I think I have like 8 CDs of you from the 90s as a band leader, and you mentioned on your first record was Joe Henderson. So were you immediately like confident in the band leading department? Did it come
No,
natural to you? Or?
no, no. I mean, although in a way, yes and no.
Hmm.
I didn't really do so many gigs as a leader. It was a challenging thing. I wanted to, but the whatever. the business, and then also, but also my own confidence actually to do
Mm.
that. But when it came, like musically, I had a sense of what I wanted, and it's always been a sort of sense of that I like texture. There's things that there's certain things that, in some ways, in certain sideman contexts, were frustrating to me. Um, uh, you know, like one of the things perhaps is like dynamics.
Hmm. Yeah.
I really like contrast in music and dynamics and textural
Yeah.
shifts and things like that. Um, Maybe it's sort of that, so that's not always, that's not everybody's aesthetic.
Of course. Yeah.
You know, post bop or whatever, it's very kind of like,
Go. Yeah.
like you have masculine, whatever you want to. I mean, I'm just
No,
applying
it's true. Yeah. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
to it, but yeah, just and maybe with the piano trio thing, just the sense of having that having that option or control, so to speak, where I've got the reins, in terms of the yeah. So I just thought, yeah, I don't know, I enjoyed it, but I have enjoyed it, and increasingly find myself doing it.
Hmm.
Trying.
I love it. Yeah. That you've done so much. I think after COVID. I think it's quite many records came out. Uh, the duo with Bill and your trios and Al Foster thing, and which is nice to see that you're in action a lot. So that's good.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. There's like different projects, yeah, different duos, and I mean, I guess it was before the pandemic. I quite a
Hmm.
bit. We actually recorded it, but this project with Lionel Lueke,
Yeah, I love that's a nice one.
and then that came out a bit later after we recorded it on digital. And I like the duo format is cool. I'm just finishing up a project with Jorge Rossi playing vibes and marimba.
Oh man, fantastic.
We, rec- we recorded an album, and and just did a residency at the Stone in New York with 4 duos.
Oh,
That it looks like. I mean, hopefully we have to work out the particulars. I'm hoping that there's a lot of people involved because it's 4 duos and different artists. That will my hope is that we'll be able to put that out. There's a
Who
kind of
did you play with?
record label that's going to do vinyl,
Yeah.
that, and digital. But well, the residency was with Ben Wendell one night, and then Kenny Wollesen, Ben Wendell, Gilad Hexelman, and Craig Taborn.
Oh man,
So
okay, that's
we
killing.
did, I had the Wurlitzer, I had piano, some effects, and then those guys brought their toys, and it was really cool. And we recorded it and we filmed it all,
Oh
so
wow,
it's gonna
beautiful.
hopefully be a thing. I was happy about the music. I still have to go through it all, but the idea is to have it be sort of like maybe 2 songs from each
Mm.
thing,
Oh yeah,
each collaboration. But I shouldn't talk too much about it because I don't know what's gonna
sure,
happen.
sure, yeah, yeah, sure. But was it completely improvised, like with that American Ballad with Bill, or
Not completely
okay,
improvised, but a lot of it was.
fantastic? Yeah.
But we had tunes to sort of have some structure and to be able to go into some things. I had some things, and I don't know whether we'll release them this way, but
Yeah.
I had a couple of my tunes, 2 or 3 of my tunes. I think "Song for Peace" might have been one of them.
Mm.
That I played with the different players. but then yeah, also a lot of improvisation. So
Fantastic.
we went pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. What that you know, since with Bill also that you went like free. It's nice to hear in that context because you know, like in the past, you basically played more or less composed. I mean, composed. You know, like tunes and.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Bill and I have been, on and off playing that way for a
Mm,
while, and it was nice to document it,
yeah,
to just sit and improvise,
yeah.
and it's cool. I mean, it's it's uh challenging
Oh man, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
to, just
yeah,
trust the process there.
yeah. Kevin, I wanted to ask you since just a bit back. I mean, I think the first record I bought by you was Andalusia with Ron and Jack. And uh, how did that record happen? I mean, I know it's a way back, but still, I want to know. It's because I still have I still listen to it every now and then. And it's like such a nice record, and just those two guys. Like, what was the story there?
Same, just opportunity that I was with Blue Note at the time. It
Yeah.
was my third record for them, and just thought, well, let's try it. I didn't know Jack. I had played a little bit with Ron, with Golson,
Mm.
and like maybe one other, I don't know, maybe a couple other contexts actually. I don't remember if it was before this or after, but there was a gig we did. There was a gig, kind of Blue Note sponsored Blue Note concert in Stuttgart.
Mm.
You can see it online,
Wow, check it out. Okay.
and I don't actually. I don't. I'm sure it says what year it is there. I don't recall, but that might have been before we did the trio thing. But this was with Bobby Hutcherson.
Oh wow, man.
But
Okay.
also, that's the only time I ever played with Bobby and Joe Chambers.
Oh,
Joe, I knew Joe a little bit because he was on one of my albums, and he
yeah.
he hired me a couple times to play with his band. Um, and Ron and Javon Jackson. So
Mm.
that was, but yeah, I just chance to play with Ron a few times. Of course, just incredible, and I wrote some music. I decided on some other tunes, like the Beatles thing and the Laquona
Yeah.
as the title track,
Yeah.
the Breeze and I, which was like, uh, they did it with Wayne in Art
Right.
Blakey's band.
Yeah.
We did it as a waltz, uh, and kind of like a little bit more esoteric. For one that it was dedicated to Billy, actually, Hart. So, um, yeah, like music that inspired me, and that's kind of how that
Mm.
happened. They
Yeah.
was willing to foot the bill for that.
Yeah. You seemed. I think I just I went through all the drummers you played with today, and man, the list was like the people we talked with about today, and there's Brian Blade still, and there's probably some Steve Gadd, which is
Yeah,
really an interesting
yeah.
other side of you. Like,
Well,
where does Steve, by the way, Gadd come into the equation? How did you enter that world? Because he's not in the circle kind of that you played
right.
with, or
I know. Yeah. I mean, I was recommended to Steve by Larry Goldings, who
ah,
was
okay,
who was in the band, and they all play together with James Taylor,
yeah,
and so yeah, Larry recommended me to Steve, and Steve's, his manager, and that's how that happened.
mm.
And of course, I knew Steve.
On 3,000 records, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not from all of them.
No, 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 yeah.
I don't know if anyone does, but yeah, I mean, legend, and I was a huge uh, Steely Dan fan.
Oh,
Of course, the records with Chick, three quartets.
sure.
Um, just knowing that this, how great Sky was. But yeah, it's a different area. And we did one studio record
Yeah,
that actually won a Grammy for
I
like
didn't know that really. Oh wow, okay,
strange
that's a nice record. Yeah.
business stuff. But and then I sang a little bit with him, and I really appreciated that opportunity because I mean, I was singing with this. I was basically singing with James Taylor's rhythm section. I mean, it wasn't. I was just like one or two
Yeah.
songs, on the set, but still, it was like a really nice opportunity. I mean, Steve, who backed so many great singers, and like so I did this thing live with him uh, that he recorded, I think, with Joe Cocker, the Bob Dylan tune, "Watching the River Flow."
Mm.
Did that one, and then for the record, I had written a tune and sang it called
Yeah.
"Spring Song." So, but yeah, I mean, his thing obviously super deep. Are you a drummer actually, or are you
I'm a guitarist.
guitarist? Sorry, I didn't know what instrument you
Oh yeah,
played.
yeah. No, but I mean, I love drummers. Obviously, I think every
Yeah,
non-drummer loves drummers. I think.
of course, center of the band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, just his the
feel.
groove thing is obviously super deep, and I mean, besides just the drum stuff, the incredible,
Yeah,
obviously it's when you hear that sound, and if he's going to take a solo, it's going to be some crazy deep shit.
yeah, yeah. Exactly.
But his thing, as he often states, is about the groove, and about the feel ultimately. And I think for me, it's that's always what I. It was always the rhythm,
Mm.
uh, be it jazz, funk, whatever it is. It's always been rhythm that has really uh, besides the melody thing.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, melody without good rhythm is not particularly. I mean, you can get away with some things, but you got to have that context, I
mm.
think. uh, and I always loved it. I always just felt so, yeah, moved by that thing. And in whatever context it is,
Mm.
whether it's like trying to make it funky, or whatever the swing thing, just really
Yeah,
trying to have it feel good, the rhythm of things, finding that right spot. And all these drummers obviously masters, and to have the chance to like be around them,
yeah,
and to receive that wisdom, receive that message of these this way of time, and how it moves, and how it's flexible, can be flexible, but also
yeah.
solid as a rock.
It's interesting.
Weird
Yeah,
at the time, like a real pulse thing. And yeah.
yeah. It's nice to hear you in all these trio contexts. Like I said before, how different it sounds because of a drummer. Obviously, the bass player as well, but like it's like putting you in a different movie, and it's like, man, okay, that's amazing how we react differently.
Yeah,
Nice to hear. Always.
yeah, I mean, someone like, yeah, because everybody has their own approach. But I
Yeah,
mean, and then of course someone like Al is just
yeah,
so incredible, um on so many levels, you know uh of music,
yeah,
rhythm just being one of them, which is a very deep one. But his sense of melody, his sense of humor, his sonic
yeah,
palette, uh, it's his creativity, his the unexpected, the
Yeah.
and then just with all that, all the history that he's obviously coming from,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pretty
All
amazing.
these guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned the singing already, and we started this talk with Butterfly having the lyrics. Is this a path you want to try pursue as well, like making an album with,
I've already been making records that I sing on. Yeah.
but like a full singing record? I mean,
I've gotten close to a full one. I mean, I've done, there was a record called New Day that I
yeah,
sang.
yeah.
And there's records prior to that, a little bit more interspersed. But yeah, I mean, I'm working on a new thing where some Rilke poems,
Wow,
setting those. It's
beautiful.
not quite, maybe even a jazz context, but more, I'm not even sure. It's kind of a singer songwriter kind of thing,
Oh, fantastic.
but yeah, I mean, I did a project with an young Italian singer where we actually did duets. I don't think people really know about that record. It's actually a pretty good record,
Oh, really?
I think, if I can say
Who is
that.
it?
Called
I have to find it. I'll write it down.
her name is Chiara Itzi, and there's some great musicians on it. Chris Potter's on it, Near Felder,
Really? Oh man, I have to find it.
um, all these guests on that.
Check it out.
Omer Avital,
Wow,
uh, Across the Sea, I believe it's called. So it's her songs and some standards, and we sing duets.
wow, fantastic. I'll check it out. I don't know.
And and yeah, standards. So that was the first time ever singing standards too. But yeah, I enjoy it. I do some live. I do a little bit of singing
Yeah,
here and there with other people. Yeah, I find it connecting,
yeah,
and
it's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, yeah, fantastic, man. Uh, Kevin, you mentioned the tour in November. What is still coming up for you in the upcoming months there, or like the schedule project-wise, or I mean, are you gonna record something new as well, or?
yeah, I'm putting some things together for next year. A couple of
Hmm.
different, honestly, different trios. Seem to be just trying to. I mean, I've been working with some different musicians. I've been doing some playing with Eric Harland.
Hmm.
Uh, Speaking of great drummers, um, and in a trio context with bass player Alex Claffey,
Sure.
um, young bass player. So we've got some gigs. We're doing a tour in March. Looks like in Italy primarily.
Oh, well, fantastic.
Um, um, then another group which I'm hoping will come together in the summer. Another trio, some trio gigs, and I do the thing with Jorge. The duo. We're going to do a trip in January
Fantastic.
to do the sort of record release of that at that time. Do some duo gigs,
Beautiful.
short, like 1 week of gigs. Um, then yeah, hopefully put this do some more gigs in the fall with this Seventh Sense band that we put back together
Oh
this
yeah,
year.
yeah. Oh, with Doug and Bill, right?
Doug and Brian
Oh,
actually. Well,
Brian. Okay.
Bill did one gig, but
Okay.
Brian's on the record
Oh,
and
beautiful, man.
made the gigs in New York. So we're hoping to do, we're gonna try to do another run in New York and maybe some other gigs in the fall.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to put 25 together, and working some project. I'm doing some duo stuff with the French pianist Thomas Enko,
Yeah, sure.
wonderful young pianist, both classical and
Yeah.
jazz, very gifted.
Fantastic.
We did a concert outside of Paris, and we're going to do a concert in France. So, yeah, a fair amount in Europe next year, and just
Beautiful.
try to keep it rolling. Or, you know,
Sounds like you're busy, man. I'm looking forward to all these new records, by the way, the duos.
thanks, Thanks.
I hope you'll kind of, at least in digital form, make them like, each one a singular album or something like that. Would be beautiful to hear, like that.
Mm,
At least in digital format. I think nowadays that's easier. So
yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about, like how I can
yeah.
release stuff, even like these Rilke poems, and seeing if it makes
Oh
sense
yeah.
to
Also that.
maybe
Yeah.
roll them. Who knows? Maybe I'll roll them out uh, one a month or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Nowadays it's no rules, I think,
Course
anymore.
of the year. Yeah, like just it's fun,
Yeah.
But
Fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
Cool, man. Well, sir, thanks so much for sharing all of these thoughts. Appreciate it. If you're gonna be close to
You.
Slovenia, man, drop me a line.
I will. Yeah, yeah.
We live in a wine
Yeah.
region, so if you like white wine,
Oh wow,
you'll
beautiful.
hang. So.
I haven't been there in a long time. I remember with Potter we did that TV show, I
Oh yeah,
think.
I was on that gig, man, actually.
Wow.
Oh yeah, shit, on with Brana. Yeah, that was like early 2000s. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. I
Is
think
he
late.
still around?
Yeah, ish, kind of.
Yeah.
He's
That was
doing.
a special. That was a cool show.
Oh man, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you were in that gig, of course.
Yeah. With
It was Bill and Scott, I think, right?
Bill and Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember vividly. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we have to bring you back to Slovenia somehow.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Cool. Kevin, I'll let you go,
Sure.
but
Thank you. Great,
thanks so
Samo.
much.
Great to meet you, man. Yeah. Thank you.
And stay in touch. I hope to see you
Okay.
soon one day.
Dr. Jazz.